I can't remember where he's teaching a class on financial accounting. So somewhere, I think he said as part of his master's. Would everyone please check in that hasn't so far? Thanks.
Up there. I'll call you after this meeting. I'll call you after this meeting.
Cindy, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Hi, Dave.
Since John Morgan isn't here last week, he segregated the committee of the whole reports 1 and 2. Are you going to do that this evening?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And so far, we have Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Morgan are officially heard from Dan or Bill, Dan Callahan
In this council meeting.
in this council meeting. So
Okay.
we have 8, including me. And I'm still waiting for our IT person to do the phones. Hello, everybody. Be gentle.
Good morning, Mrs. Shaw.
I haven't been a Mrs. in a while.
Sorry, Miss Shaw. That's what we done at the grade school when I went to Catholic school. You had to check in every day. Good morning, Miss Shaw. And then you had to say the pledge and the prayers. It's kind of like we do at council.
Are you all hooked up there now, Cindy?
We're waiting for Josh to arrive, but I think you can go ahead, Dave. We've got a few things before public comment, I guess.
Okay. And we will get started. I'll call the September 8th, 2020 continuation of the September 2nd, 2020 regular meeting to order. We have roll call, please.
Roll call. Kathy? We have 9 present and 3 absent.
Dan?
Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Morgan, and Commissioner Anderson are absent.
Okay, let the record show that they are excused this evening. Commissioner McDonough, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
Almighty God, you look upon us and guide us this night as we move our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you. And
Thank you. Now we'll go for the approval of the minutes of the August 19, 2020 regular meeting. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the minutes that occurred on the meeting of August 19th, 2020 regular meeting. I hear a second?
second,
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the August 19th, 2020 regular meeting. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Getting there. Getting there. Nine yay, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. We do not have any items not addressed on the agenda this evening, so under the chief executive's report, just want to say that the IT department has got us hooked up with Facebook, so people in the public can follow our meetings on Facebook or the normal streaming channels. So I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend, and we'll get right into the so now's the time for any public comment on any items on the agenda. The call-ins. Oh. Okay. I guess we do have, yeah. Okay, we do have one item before we go to the public comment. One item on the, that wasn't addressed on the agenda was Resolution 2020-59. And this was for the school accounts, the mill levies. So we're going to have to do the suspension of the rules to get 2020-59 passed on final reading. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive.
Agenda.
In accordance with the provisions of Section 6 of Rule 6 of the Rules of Business of the Council of Commissioners of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, the council hereby finds that an emergency condition exists, which requires that the council rules be suspended to allow Resolution 2020-59 to be added to the agenda of the regular meeting of the council. And the reason for this is that the resolution sets the tax mill levies for school districts within the City County of Butte-Silver elementary and high school retirement funds. This was not submitted by the deadline because the final amounts were not fully determined prior to this deadline. So in order to set these levies, we need to add this to tonight's agenda. So at this moment, I'd like to move to approve placing resolution number 2020-59 on the agenda under suspension of the rules for final passage at tonight's meeting. This is September 8th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to place Council Resolution 2020-59 on tonight's agenda. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Did you hear that? 9 yea, 0 nay.
Okay, motion carries. Now we'll move to public comment on any items on the agenda.
Mr. Chief Executive, it appears that we have a call in.
Okay, we'll go to the phone line.
Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of Commissioners. Who am I speaking to? What is your name and address, please?
This is Evan Barrett, 807 West Silver, Butte, Montana.
Hello, Evan. Love to hear from
Hi.
you. What you got?
Well, I'm glad I'm finally hearing the sound. I never hear the sound. I wanted to address make a public comment on an item on the agenda. Excuse me, let me turn my sound down here. Glad I'm finally hearing the sound. I never hear the sound. I wanted to address a public comment on an item on the agenda. And there, my sound is down.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And the item I wanted to address was on the consent agenda. It's the letter from Governor Bullock, communication number 11. And I know it's recommended to go to the committee of the whole tomorrow. And there seemed to be some confusion about that last Wednesday. And so I just wanted to weigh in very briefly and say that as a citizen and an activist in the area of the Superfund cleanup and the restoration of Silverbow Creek, I really urge the council to do what the consent agenda says, and that is refer to the commissioners for tomorrow's committee of the whole, where we can have a full fleshed out discussion on it. Strongly in support of the MOU, in addition to the CD, have it fully discussed tomorrow. So simply wanted to throw in and say, urge you to please do what the consent agenda recommends, which is to send it to the council commissioners tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan, for calling. Checking to see if there's any other calls.
Any other calls, Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, it appears there are no other calls. But keep the lines open.
Okay, well, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a message that someone else has been trying to call in and can't get through.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea.
Well,
Okay.
we'll give them a minute. They probably couldn't
Okay.
get through because it was on the lines.
Maybe. Thank you.
Yeah, it appears there is a call. We're going to take it right now. Good evening and welcome to the Council of Commissioners meeting. Who am I speaking to and your address, please?
Yes, it's Northeast Trethaway at 3448 Wharton Street, Butte, Montana.
Hello, Northie. Greetings.
How are you doing? Good to speak with you.
You can continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd like to make some comments tonight about the MOU. So that's what I will be stating on tonight. The Restore Our Creek Coalition, ROC, is very encouraged by recent developments that have created a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between Butte-Silver and the state of Montana. As a coalition, ROC has strongly supported an MOU to supplement what is in the consent decree about Silverbow Creek. When we and so many others called for an MOU, it was to have an agreement in place that will keep the gate open for the prospect of an eventually restored Silverbow Creek. The MOU before you opens that gate between the CD and the future success of eventually getting a fully restored first mile of Silverbow Creek in place. For better than 5 years now, our community has firmly made the point that our first mile of Silverbow Creek is just as important as all the miles restored west of Butte and all the way to Milltown. The people of Butte cannot and will not forget the first mile. The partnership between the state and Butte-Silver in this MOU provides us all with a better opportunity to achieve that important community goal. Several years ago, Restore Our Creek Coalition and the community developed a plan for the Silverbow Creek corridor in the center of our town that includes removal of the tailings along the corridor, the Parrot, Higginsy, Northside tailings, century of mining and smelting devastation. Agreements in the consent decree bring the tailings removal and community amenities in the corridor ever closer. While the CD doesn't do enough directly for Silverbow Creek restoration, it does contain language that holds an opportunity to keep the upper reaches of a restored Silverbow Creek in our crosshairs, so that working together, we might get this important restoration done. And the MOU is critical to that. Unlike the tailings and amenities, there still is not yet a clear-cut plan that outlines how we can continue toward a restored Silverbow Creek. However, with the MOU, we have an opportunity to get a plan in place among the parties at some point. The MOU between the local government and the state is the important vehicle that Rock wanted as that next step. To see that the gate is in place to help us all cross over from the consent decree to the eventuality of a restored Silverbow Creek. In summary, Restore Our Creek Coalition very much supports the memorandum of understanding between Butte-Silver and the state of Montana as it pertains to constructing a lined creek that leads towards something much greater, a future restored creek in the center reaches of Butte, Montana. We anticipate testifying in favor of that before the committee of the whole tomorrow and look forward to the council approving the MOU and authorizing the chief executive to sign on behalf of the people of Butte. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
Any other calls? Checking to see if there's any calls on the line. Clear. At this time, we have no calls, but we'll leave the lines open.
Just give them 1 minute and see if anybody else calls in.
All right, you bet.
Any other calls there, Commissioner Shaw?
No, Chief Executive Palmer, there are no calls at this moment.
Okay, then we will go to section 1, the bid openings, public hearings and or presentations. Number 1 was a bid opening. We did have that bid opening and it's hard to go back on that one. We received the one bid, and the Commissioner Shaw, if you would just make a motion that we receive, send that bid to Barry Castler in the Superfund Division for a report back.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. We did receive one bid from Purity's Drilling Consultants out of Peoria, Arizona, at a total bid of $147,000, and we referred that back to the Superfund Division to come back to this body with their recommendation. And I would move again to do that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to refer the one sole bid to the Superfund Operations Manager for a report back to the council. Anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Gotta wait for the screen of this. Okay, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
That is 9 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next was the public hearing on petition 2020-01. And since we did have proof of publication last week and its continuation, proof of publication is still in order. So, Mr. Reardon, are you on the line?
He's right here, Chief Executive Palmer.
Thank you. Patrick, I'll turn it over to you for a report on the public hearing.
Chief Executive Palmer and members of the council, for the record, I'm Pat Reardon, Butte-Silver Land Systems Administrator with the staff report regarding petition number 2020-01, a request from Werner Building Limited Liability Corporation of Butte and Copper Properties, a limited liability partnership of Helena, Montana, to close and vacate an alleyway in the Hobart and Morris addition. Copper Properties currently has in place an agreement to purchase the former Butte Orthopedics property at 225 South Clark. During the preparation of this agreement, it was noticed an alleyway was separating the two pieces of their ownership. At some point in the past, a platted but undeveloped alleyway in Block 4 of the Hobart and Morris addition was paved and incorporated into the parking lot of the former Butte Orthopedics. Werner Building and Copper Properties, majority property owners adjacent to this alleyway, request to close or vacate in order to formally incorporate this area into their existing parcels and eliminate this public alley from the middle of their business operation. Butte-Silver Bow received no opposition to this closure over the 2-week interdepartmental and outside agency petition review comment period. We had set up some PDFs to review. I'm not sure if Jason is out there. We had 4 slides lined up previously. Okay, here we go. So there's the first slide is a vicinity map showing the area to be closed in an orange hatch pattern immediately behind the Werner Medical Building at 225 South Clark Street. Next slide, please. There we go. Thank you. This is a similar photo with a lot of the map features taken off, showing the area to be closed in Block 4, the Hobart and Morris addition. That is the alleyway outlined in orange, and which is now part of the Werner Medical Building parking lot. Next slide, please. Okay, this will be the last slide. I think this will do. This is a Google view looking west towards Cinder Field and basically right down the alley corridor, which is to be closed or vacated with a dumpster sitting roughly in the middle of the corridor. Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Reardon? Okay, seeing none, well, thank you, Patrick. And I'm going to open the public hearing and call for proponents. Are there any proponents? Commissioner Shaw, getting any proponents?
Mr. Chief Executive, there is no calls coming in that I'm aware of.
Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents.
Again, there are no calls.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go to opponents. Are there any opponents? Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents.
And we have no calls.
Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And as you'll notice, the agenda notice to refer to Public Works, that has already been to the Public Works Committee and been moved on. That's a mistake. It should not have said that. Well, next, we'll go to the consent agenda. A, committee reports 1 through 4, and B, communications 1 through 11. Do we have any segregations? Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I'd like to segregate out of the committee the whole meeting report, item 1, 19-578, and item 2, 2020-04.
Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I would like to segregate number 5, 2020-354, number 11, 2020-360. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other segregations? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to segregate communication number 9, 2020-358.
Okay. Any others? Seeing none, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the consent agenda A 1 through 4 with the exception of out of the committee, the whole report, item 1, 19-578, and item 2, 2020-04, and B, communications 1 through 11 with the exceptions of 5, 20-354, number 9, 2020-358, I believe, 358, and number 11, item communication 2020-360.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda A 1 through 4, exclusive of 1 committee of the whole meeting report, item 1 and 2, and communications B 1 through 11 with the exception of number 5, number 9, and number 11. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
9 yea and 0 nay.
Okay, motion carries. We will go to the committee of the whole meeting report, number 1.
Excuse me for 1 second. I'm very sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting messages that from viewers that there's no audio. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay,
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
is Kathy still up there in the chambers?
So no audio on the website or on YouTube?
I'm not sure where they're watching. I just got a message.
Let me look at it.
Okay, thank you.
There's audio on YouTube and there was an issue with audio on the other. That turned off. Perfect. Why don't you turn it on and see if that.
We're working on it. Apparently the audio is on YouTube, but not on the website.
This person says they're streaming from the website, wherever that takes them.
You know who else is with me? Call Barbara Davies. She's streaming.
Hey Barb, testing to see if you can hear us here.
Okay.
We just did a test and apparently the audio is working.
Okay, well, we'll continue on, and Commissioner Shea, if you get any more texts about that, please let us know.
So
Okay.
Chief Executive Palmer, if you don't mind starting with 2 first, because we did that last week. We started with the second one first.
Okay,
If that's all right with you.
sure. We'll go to communication 2020-04, number 2 in the Committee of the Whole report. It's from Michael Townsend, citizen requesting council and commissioners to consider the repurchase of my home located at 105 West 4th Street. I will comply with all rules and regulations of the county enrichment program. Commissioner Shaw. You're on mute, Cindy.
Excuse me. See my lips moving, nothing happening. And we do have audio, by the way. Okay, well, as we all remember last week, our county attorney Joyce, she explained to us that we now have a resolution in place, 2020-15, which sets forth a process that is now being used through the Treasurer's Department. And it was approved last week. So it's in place, and she advised that at this time, the council really just needs to concur with this and let it go through the proper channels under the conditions that have to be met that are set forth in the resolution. So if there are no other questions, because I know we had this open for discussion last week, I'll ask for any questions first, and then I'll make a motion if there are any questions.
Any questions from the council? I don't see any. So.
And also, I want to also say that Mike Townsend did call, and he had an opportunity at that time last week to talk to us about it. And so at this time, I would concur with communication 2020-04 on the condition that Mr. Townsend meets the requirements as set forth in the new resolution 2020-15 and place this on file.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to concur in a request in communication 2020-04 with the stipulation that Mr. Townsend complies with all of the stipulations in the resolution. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
9 yea, 0 nay.
Motion carries. And we'll go to communication 19-578 in the Committee of the Whole report. Gary Rundle, citizen requesting Council of Commissioners consideration to purchase property located at 1820 Banks Avenue, Butte, Montana. I wish to redeem the property from Butte-Silver before the tax sale in February. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, again, the similar situation with reference to Resolution 2020-15. At this time, I would move to concur with communication 19-578 on the condition that Mr. Rundle meets all the requirements as set forth in Resolution 2020-15 and placed on file.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to concur in the request in communication 19-578 with the understanding that Mr. Rundle will abide by all of the rules and regulations in the resolution as set forth. Is there anything on the question? All those, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote?
It's coming along, Dave.
Okay, getting ahead of myself.
19-578. That's correct.
Okay, now will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Nine yea, zero nay.
Motion carries. Next, we'll go to communication number 5, 2020-354. Dave Palmer, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners to accept this letter as my formal request for your concurrence in the following appointments and reappointments to the Butte-Silver Bow Fire Commission. Appointments are for Lowell Stuck, Tom Little. Reappointment is for Steve MacArthur. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Reason for segregating this is we all received a letter from Mike Nasheim about this, and he also sent us a little reminder today. Let's not let last week's technical difficulties let us forget about the following. So, Chief Executive, with your approval, I did see there was also a letter from Steve MacArthur, who is your appointment, and I think he's a fine man, and I will follow up. But I wonder if it would be a good idea for me to read Mr. Nasheim's letter into the record and also read Mr. MacArthur's letter into the record before I make a recommendation or motion.
It's fine with me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Commissioners, I'm sure you all read this letter. I'm first going to read the letter from Mike Nasheim. He is the building inspector in Butte-Silver Bow. We dealt with this in the Personnel Committee for a couple different weeks. And as chairman of the Personnel Committee, I thought that we'd done a real good job of answering some of his concerns. His letter reads at this time, Dear Commissioners, primarily those whom attended the Personnel Committee meetings, let's not let last week's technical difficulties let us forget about the following. Again, on tonight's agenda is Communication 2020-354, reappointment of Mr. Steve MacArthur for the Fire Commission. To the date of this email, let alone last week's similar email, and the previous letter I've written to the Personnel Committee, I still have never received a response in any shape or form from Mr. MacArthur pertaining to the questions I had. Chairman MacArthur and the rest of the Fire Commission has had ample opportunity to respond to these questions, yet has sat in complete silence and has failed to appear in either of our Personnel Committee meetings or such a controversial subject. In the same letter noted above, I asked how we are being held accountable. I suppose in this particular instance, it is being proven right in front of our very eyes that there is no accountability, and sadly, it appears that this type of behavior is encouraged to continue. If the reappointment of Mr. MacArthur is solely based on his years of service to the Commission and his knowledge gained over that period of time, shouldn't the new appointees be able to simply read the records required by law, see attached, tap the other remaining 2 Fire Commissioners' knowledge base, and essentially continue the continuity without a glitch? What seems quite logical in theory proves very different in reality. Once again, tonight, we will have an opportunity to find out if each of you condone this type of behavior. Sincerely, Michael A. Nasheim, building official, Butte-Silver Bow. I find that letter to be the last line, we condone it. I don't find that as very humorous. I think we took his letters to the Personnel Committee, and I think we reviewed them and done a fine job. I would now like to read a letter that came from Steve MacArthur to Chief Executive Palmer and the Commissioners, and it was addressed to Mr. Nasheim. I sincerely apologize for not getting back to you sooner, but a series of cascading events in my personal life distracted me from the requisite attention I should have been paying to other issues in a number of areas. Again, I apologize. As a point of clarification, the members of the Butte-Silver Bow Fire Commission do not discuss the particulars of any candidate, applicant, with any individual, community officials, etc. Any deliberations held by the Butte-Silver Bow Fire Commission regarding hiring, promotions, possible disciplinary action, etc. are done within the safe sanctity of an official meeting. Butte-Silver Bow Fire Commission places the highest premiums on the maintenance of stringent confidentiality standards. Also, the Butte-Silver Bow Fire Commission would never, barring formal court order, recommend that the written documents pertaining to any individual's application, materials, promotions, documents, or other relevant materials be released for any type of public consumption. These written documents are considered to be personnel matters and again are treated as confidential in nature, and as such are secured, maintained, and archived by officials of the Butte-Silver County's Personnel Department. The Butte-Silver Fire Commission entrusts the Personnel Department with all such documents pertaining to official business under the purview of the Fire Commission. In closing, I hope this information satisfies your questions. I'm sorry that it took so long to get back to you. Sincerely, Steve MacArthur, Chairman, Butte-Silver Fire Commission. Just to follow up with a few comments, any of us that were in these meetings, we gave everybody ample time to talk. The only reason I wanted to read these letters is so that we had answered as commissioners. I'd like to end by saying we are the legislative branch, and I think Chief Executive Palmer and Steve MacArthur both done a good job. Personnel Department, Leslie Clark done a good job, and I see no reason for we as commissioners to carry this on any further. At this time, I would make a recommendation and make a motion to concur with Chief Executive Palmer's appointment of Steve MacArthur to the Fire Commission. I look to concur with Communication 2020-354. Thank you.
Second.
And place it on file, Jim.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw, and place on file. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to concur in the request in Communication 2020-354 and place the communication on file. Is there anything on the question? Okay, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Eight yea and one nay.
Motion carries. Next, we'll go to communication number 9, 2020-358. Maria Porchavina, Executive Secretary, T-Bid, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence for a presentation of work plan and budget for fiscal year 2021 and for the Butte-Silver Bow Tourism Business Improvement District, T-Bid, on September 9th, 2020. And a public hearing on September 23rd, 2020, and a resolution to keep T-Bid assessment at $1 occupied guest room. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Reason why I wanted to just have a discussion on this topic, and every year this comes up, whether this is the inappropriate time to do that or not, is increasing the dollar on the T-bid. I just kind of want to have some discussion with the other commissioners, their thoughts of raising that from $1 to $2. Any thoughts on out there in the commissioner, as my fellow commissioners? Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. I will state, as I've stated in the past, I do agree that we probably should have an increase in the bed tax, but I think we've got to go to the hotelers with a plan of how we're going to spend it, and we might be able to get that accomplished. I don't think the hotelers are willing to just rubber stamp $1 or $2 approval and then have us tell them how to spend it. I realize they've got input in how it works, but in the 7 years I've been dealing with this, the hotelers have always said, bring us a plan, how you plan on spending the money, and not just at the airport. So I would just reiterate, I think if we really want to do this, as the Economic Development Committee meets, we have to come up with a plan, we have to present it and sell it to them. And once we sell them the idea, I think they'll be more receptive to coming up with another $1 or $2. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I just want to say that, tomorrow evening, Maria will be here. She will give us a presentation. And I don't believe there's no action taken. So we can certainly hear what she has to say and we can have those discussions tomorrow evening. And then again, we will have to have a public hearing before that even happens. So thank you, Josh, for bringing that up. But we do have some opportunities, to take questions and have Maria give us she'll be giving us her annual report. So thanks.
Any further questions?
Chief Executive Palmer, can I jump in 1 second?
Sure, Ms. Gleason.
Thank you. I also wanted to state that Maria did call me earlier this evening, asking about jumping on this meeting, or if we thought it was sufficient that she would just be joining us tomorrow for the start of her presentation. And so tomorrow night, she will be giving a presentation on the work plan. And then on September 23rd is the public hearing for the next year's budget and the discussion of the dollar or whatever changes might be made then.
Thank you, Matt.
Mhm.
Commissioner Mankins.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer and fellow commissioners. I would just like to kind of piggyback off what Mr. Fisher has stated. I don't understand why that is not a viable thought to think about getting another airline. That seems to be talked about for the last year and a half that I've been a commissioner, and it seems like that is a viable solution. So I just wanted to make sure an explanation made to us for Mrs. Porchavina tomorrow night to help us out why that is not something that we should be thinking about going forward with our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Commissioner O'Neill, would you like to make a motion to?
Yes. Chief Executive Palmer, I need to get the number back up. My apologies. Thank you for all your, for listening, and just a comment real quick. We need another plan, so be scratching your heads for a plan for that if it makes sense to bump it up. I don't want to go another year and miss on that if we have any good plans or good opportunities for our town. So thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to place communication number 2020-358 place on file.
No.
I think we would have to hold it in abeyance. Just concurring the request, hold in abeyance.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to hold communication number 2020-358 in abeyance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to concur and hold in abeyance communication 2020-358. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Can I just have a point of clarification?
Sure.
Do we need a motion to just hold this?
It's not necessary, I guess, to see.
I just want to make sure we're not concurring on
Well, it's just concurring.
anything, just to hold.
Presentation and have the public hearing.
There's County Attorney Joyce.
The attorney's place.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shea, because it was segregated, you need to take some action on it.
Okay.
If you would have approved the consent agenda without it being segregated, you would have held it in abeyance.
Okay.
Commissioner O'Neill has made the same motion now to go with the original recommendation.
Okay.
So the
Thank
council
you.
will vote to do that.
Okay. Anything further on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
9 yea, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Next, we'll go to communication number 11, 2020-360. Steve Bullock, Governor, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for the Chief Executive to sign the draft Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the state of Montana and Butte-Silver on restoration projects in the Silver Bow corridor. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Segregated this just to put a few comments in. I find it kind of different that we yet to have a consent decree signed by Judge Hayden, but yet we're making agreements with the state of Montana to cover apparently what I see as flaws in the consent decree, because this should have been in the consent decree. what it's starting to look like to me is we're starting to get a little bit concerned about who our next governor might be and how he might authorize what's left of the $20 million when we reroute that creek around the Black Berm. Now, $1 million to me doesn't seem like anywhere near enough to do the cleanup that we got to do from Texas Avenue to Carr Avenue. And I have no problem with Northie Tretheway's comments and Evan Barrett's comments. My point is, adjustments. Why are we who's ever got their mic on? It's pretty noisy. Why do we have to make these adjustments when we don't even have a consent decree signed by the judge yet? Recently, Doug Benevito, who is a high-powered EPA person, has made some changes in hopes that maybe different things will happen. I guess my concerns are, we're going to do an MOU with the state of Montana so that we can make sure we get our bases covered, that we get a little bit of money out of when they reroute the Black Berm, $20 million. If there's $1 million left or $10 million or $2, we get what's ever left. That seems to me to be kind of working backwards down the stream instead of forward. And I have no problem with going with the memorandum of understanding. I just don't understand why we're doing this prior to having a consent decree signed by Judge Hayden. Should Judge Hayden reject the consent decree and we have an MOU, where does that leave us? I don't know. Maybe somebody with the legal mind knows more than I do, but I can't see having an MOU with the state of Montana and not having a consent decree signed yet by Judge Hayden. It appears to me some people know a little more than the rest of us do. So I have no problem holding this in abeyance and referring it to the committee of the whole tomorrow night, which is what I plan on doing. But I do think we need to start getting a little better understanding what's happening between Texas Avenue and Carr Avenue. And, the contaminations is flowing under Columbus Plaza. And years ago, Arco BP paid to plant trees along George Street, both sides of the creek. They all died. That showed then that they thought they had a responsibility at that time. When the trees died, it showed the soil was contaminated. So here we are now, the first mile of many miles down the creek, and Butte-Silver is sitting here trying to make a memorandum of understanding to get $1 million or maybe a couple $1 million that may cost us $10 million. Thank you for listening.
Hopefully all your questions will be answered tomorrow evening at the Committee of the Whole when we have representatives from the state and the Superfund team online. But I think it's a step in the right direction. It's something that we need. And even if a consent decree does not go through, this at least puts it in place that at least using some of these restoration dollars for future improvements in the corridor, along with whatever ARCO is ordered to do outside of a consent decree. I think the consent decree is before the judge, and I think it's a matter of time, but I think we're in the right direction by having this MOU in place with hoping to secure, no matter who is the governor at the time, help secure and work with Butte-Silver on the remainder funds from all the different programs that have taken place in the corridor to try to get those monies in the corridor. Without the MOU, there's nothing going towards that end. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and hopefully tomorrow night you'll have your questions answered. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer, and I appreciate your input. But what I'm stating is, without the consent decree being signed, there is no $20 million to go around the Black Berm, reroute the creek. Without the consent decree being signed, we don't have that. We don't have that creek being rerouted around the Black Berm the way I understand it. So I guess we go back tomorrow night and try to figure them out. But we don't have the $20 million balance left because we don't have the consent decree. That's it. Thank you.
No, the way it's going to work is, we'll let those questions be answered tomorrow, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Would you like to make a motion?
Commissioner O'Neill had his hand up, Dave.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Just a comment. It's my understanding that there are two different deals. The consent decree is on one side of the town, if you will, and that part's for the other part of the creek. So that would be the reason in my eyes that's why that needs to go through with this, that step. If we don't go through that step for the MOU, then we wouldn't get anything. I mean, I guess we'll see tomorrow. These will be great questions we need to ask, but that's my understanding. So I don't know. Could be way off, but.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I will make a motion to hold this over into the committee hall tomorrow, but to answer Mr. O'Neill's questions, you are wrong because without the consent decree, there is no $20 million to be had. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to refer the communication 2020-360 to the committee of the whole. Is there anything else on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Nine yea, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Next, we'll go to section 3, ordinances and resolutions. We have a suspension of the rules for final passage on resolution number 2020-59. Commissioner Shaw?
Mr. Chief Executive,
Oh, did I do it wrong?
that is an error. Neither of those resolutions, it shouldn't say suspension of the rules. Both of those resolutions have already been referred to the judiciary and referred back up for final reading. So that's just an error in the title. These should not be under suspension of the rules. They should just be on final passage.
So the one, okay, yeah. So we will go to resolutions for final passage. Resolution number 2020-31. This is a resolution of intent to alter the boundaries of the city, county, Butte-Silver, Montana solid waste special district to include the boundaries of the town of Walkerville and providing for an effective date herein. This one, we're still working through some of the paperwork on who protested and who did not. So I'd ask that we hold this in abeyance until the next regular meeting. Resolution number 2020-45. A resolution authorizing and approving the sale of real property formerly known as 611 South Idaho Street, owned by the city and county of Butte-Silver, state of Montana, described as Lot 25 of Block 4 of the Trevona Edition, parcel number 00000433610, to the city and county of Butte-Silver, Montana, to Brittonfield Investments, LLC, in accordance with the provisions of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Resolution 2020-45 on final reading and passed, having been fully read at length.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution 2020-45 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Coming. We have 9 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Next, we'll do Council Resolution 2020-59. It's a resolution setting the tax mill levies for school districts within the city and county of Butte-Silver elementary and high school retirement funds. This resolution would, yeah, that's it. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Resolution 2020-59 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution 2020-59 on final reading. Is there anything on the question?
Mr. Chief Executive, just quickly, this is one that you did have to suspend the rules for because it was just introduced tonight. So you would have to suspend the rules to pass it on final reading. without reference to the judiciary before you vote on it.
With all due respect, that's what I said.
Not for the other two.
Okay, Commissioner Shaw, would you like to
Thank
make a
you.
motion to suspend the rules?
This is a test and I'm up for it. Okay, I move for the suspension of rules for the purpose of passing Council Resolution 2020-59 by waiving subsection 7 of Rule 36 of the Rules and Order of Business of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to pass Council Resolution 2020-59 without reference to the Judiciary Committee. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 9 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Okay, now we'll go to Council Resolution 2020-59. A resolution setting the tax mill levies for school districts within the city and county of Butte-Silver Bows elementary and high school retirement funds. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Resolution 2020-59 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length. Twice.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution 2020-59 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote?
We're getting there. There we go.
Okay. Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Nine yea, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Next is time for public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. We'll go to the phone line.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. It appears there are no calls waiting to be answered. You want to give it a minute?
Yeah, we'll give it 1 second.
Again, it does not appear anyone has called in.
Okay. On the section about the calendar of other meetings and events, that's not quite correct, where it says due to COVID-19 pandemic, meetings will resume at a later date. They are being held via WebEx, so just want people to know that they are taking place. Commissioner Shaw.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. See you tomorrow night.
Thank you, Dave. See you tomorrow. See you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Nice early one.
Good night, guys.
Night.